Welcome, everybody, and welcome to our webinar, Using Business Architecture to Track Agile Releases in the Digital Transformation. My name is Peter Blackwood. I'm your moderator for today, and I'm the practice director for the Business Architecture practice at STA Group, a Chicago-based consultancy. We are very pleased today to welcome Dr. Terry Roach, the CEO of Capsicum Business Architects. Terry is the founder of Capsicum and a longtime practitioner of business and enterprise architecture. He's the author of the Capsicum Framework for Strategically Aligned Business Architecture and the principal design engineer for the Jalapeno semantic modeling platform. Today, Terry's going to be sharing with us an overview of his approach around using architecture to track agile releases in digital transformation. We'll also be sharing images of the Jalapeno business modeling platform that Capsicum has designed to help companies do a number of different things, including articulate their transformation strategy, assess the current state of their capabilities, define the roadmap for transformation, and at the end, as they proceed, map the delivery outcomes achieved through agile and safe agile projects and releases to that overall strategic plan. Terry will be taking us through the approach, and along the way, he'll be discussing various modules, including screenshots of Capsicum's Jalapeno business modeling platform, including those parts that support strategic planning, business modeling, with an emphasis really on business capabilities and value streams as organizing constructs, and also the agile release planning, as well as the ongoing management and tracking of sprints across against the strategies and architecture. A little bit of housekeeping before we start. We'll be taking questions. You're in the Zoom software right now, so please type your questions in using the Q&A tab. We'll save about 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the hour to address as many of them we can. And if they're not anonymous and we can't get them within the hour, we'll follow up afterwards. We are also, for those that are participating today, we're making a YouTube recording of this session. We'll be forwarding each participant an email at the end of the session, including a little link to the recording so that you'll have it afterwards. And with that, without any further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Terry Roach. Terry.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for that intro, and thank you all for spending this time with us today. This is one of the first in what we're hoping will be a series of seminars on the topic of business architecture and significantly business architecture, actionable business architecture, turning the work that we as business architects do into something that's pragmatic, realistic, and that can achieve real actionable outcomes for our businesses. The topic that we've chosen for this seminar is one that we hear of quite regularly as one of the biggest challenges that organizations face, and that we in the business architecture space sit squarely in the middle to be able to address. And that's figuring out how to get that alignment between the work that's going on in our portfolio of digital delivery programs and the strategic thinking and planning that we in the business architecture and business strategy space are doing. Some of those challenges are here, and this is a rough agenda for what we're going to be talking about today. The first one is basically just effectively explaining and articulating the strategic plan itself, and we're talking about strategies as they relate to some sort of transformation journey. The biggest motivation that we see for investments in technology today are coming from digital transformation strategies. The digital business is perhaps one of the most topical talking points and buzzwords out there as organizations are preparing to move their transactions onto the digital economy, and being able to explain how that transformation is to take place, and how we're going to align initiatives to be able to take us on that transformation journey is just the first simple step. Obviously, the key role that business architecture plays in that space is defining and mapping out our business capabilities, and more importantly, assessing those capabilities and their state of maturity so that we can see where it is that we need to apply effort in uplifting those capabilities and taking us on that journey. So the mapping and the assessments of your capabilities will be the next challenge, and then turning that into a roadmap for transformation. So how is it and where do we need to apply our effort, and how are we going to turn those epics, as they were, into a journey and a roadmap for agile delivery. And then as the projects themselves begin, tracking and realizing the benefits of those technology uplifts and mapping them back to this gradual transition from an as-is state to a to-be state, and achieving our strategic plan. So those are the challenges that we're talking about, and I'm going to try today to demonstrate how we achieve that. As Peter said, our company, Capsicum Business Architects, we focus on modeling enterprise. We have a framework called the Capsicum Framework, which provides effectively a meta model for defining, if you were to model a business, what should be all the things that you should model and how should they fit together. The Capsicum Framework begins with a model of business strategy, and then covers a variety of different traditional modeling spaces in a fully integrated and dynamic way. And Jalapeno is our modeling platform that implements the Capsicum Framework. It's cloud-based and accessible through a browser, and the majority of what I'm going to do today is take you through the Jalapeno product and demonstrate how we can achieve this alignment that I've just been talking about. So Jalapeno is a business modeling platform, and we particularly apply it towards what we call intelligent digital transformation. It helps you articulate that transformation strategy, and most importantly, encapsulates the full semantics of your organization as a digital business model, accelerating that transformation journey. Let's quickly give you an overview. These are the following 6 modules within the Jalapeno tooling. We cover the strategic planning, business architecture, business analysis domain, the full suite of process modeling, use cases, requirements, and so on, information modeling, digital interactions, so turning your end-to-end interactions onto a digital platform, and then the delivery of those through your both either a waterfall, but more likely an agile delivery approach. But behind each of those boxes is we treat those as domains, modeling domains. There are a wealth of traditional modeling paradigms and modeling approaches. Nothing in Jalapeno is proprietary or different to anything that you would be familiar with as, say, a business architect, a business analyst, or any of these other professionals that work in these business domains. But the difference being that everything that we do is built on a common platform. So those people, whichever of these areas that you're working on, you're using building blocks that are common and familiar and usable by people in the other domains, and everything is linked and connected, allowing you that full traceability and alignment between anything and everything that gets modeled. These highlighted darker boxes are the principal areas that we will be covering today. And without any further ado, I'm going to jump into Jalapeno and give you a look at how we do it. So here is the home page of Jalapeno, and you can see that we have a variety of modeling layers. We're looking at the modeling of the strategic purpose. And for those of you familiar with the business motivation model, we're looking at a high-level extract of the business motivation model. Business motivation model talks about structuring an unstructured strategic plan and looking at the desired results, what we're trying to achieve, courses of action, how we're going to achieve that, and directives, how we're going to govern ourselves across our strategies. And then we go through a process of higher level setting of goals, strategies, and policies, and planning our objectives, our tactics, our initiatives, and projects, and our controls, our metrics, and procedures. I'm going to dive into the strategy session and have a look at an extract of strategies. Where in this demo model, we've been looking at strategies within an HR domain. And so the majority of the content that we'll see today relates to an HR transformation plan. So here you see a number of business strategies as they've been articulated, and we've selected this strategy here, transitioning to employee self-service. It's highlighted here in the strategy cell, and related to that, we're showing the goals that are sustained by that strategy, the policies that govern that strategy, tactics or projects, initiatives that implement that strategy, and their relationship to the business objectives, the measurable time-based objectives that these tactics will be achieving. And over here you see the number of measures and metrics and KPIs that relate to these tactics. Now, what Jalapeno does is it stores all of this information in this dynamic, integrated way so that everything is connected, and as we click through onto any one of these items, we can see that the appropriate and corresponding relationships out from that selected item. We can also view, for this strategy, we can have a look at these initiatives in a roadmap view. And because the initiatives have a start and end date, we're able to lay them out in somewhat of a Gantt chart style here. We can see the strategies themselves, in this case, these two strategies underneath the parent that we have selected, and the corresponding initiatives and when those initiatives are due to occur on a timeline. From here, we can drill into one of those initiatives and get the further detail about it, and drill. And the thing about Jalapeno just allows you to continue drilling in and drilling in. So here we've got a little bit more detail on this particular initiative. It's a project, outsourcing of payroll administration, and it's a project to allow third parties to move our payroll admin onto a third-party platform. We've got some opportunity here to lay out the start and end dates, and you can see those start and end dates will, as you change those things, that'll determine where that project fits onto your timeline. And one of the more important aspects of Jalapeno is, as I said earlier, connecting everything up to everything else. So below here, you see some relationships that we have to say, who's the project manager, and other various metadata that are user definable. So in this case, we've chosen to rate the difficulty of the project and risk, and all of these attributes are extendable depending on your particular needs. Right, so I'm jumping now down into the capabilities area. One of the ways to navigate Jalapeno is through these activity-based pathways. So I'm jumping down into the capability pathway, and I'm going into the first step, which we will be creating and managing our business capabilities. Here we are at the root node of our capabilities for HR, and you can see a tree underneath that higher level parent, which is represented over here. And within these high level categories, capabilities, we can drill down from, we're at basically level 1 in our capability map, drilling down to level 2. Dynamically, we begin to unpack and get further levels of detail underneath this, level 3 and down to level 4. So each of these capabilities that you see here, once again, are just representations of much further content. We can drill into one of those capabilities. So here we're looking at one of those capabilities that we'll be planning to uplift in this transformation. It's the payroll transaction processing, which a little bit of an explanation of what that is. And you can also see over here, we've defined a set of assessment criteria of the maturity of that capability across a number of assessment areas. We'll talk a little in a minute about the flexibility for defining your own assessment criteria. And for each of these assessment criteria, we've chosen here information, people, process, technology, and then an aggregated maturity across them all. We're able to come down and pick and define for each of those a set of maturity values, and then for each of those, and then for this particular capability, assign values to those assessment criteria. So as you can see, we've already gone through and done that. So having done that across our capability map, now just an aside, that can be done either in a centralized workshop where we'd get that information from a group of stakeholders and individually assign those to these to the capabilities, or through a outbound survey that we can do to the stakeholder community, where we capture those assessment criteria and aggregate them back up. Okay, so having done that, we've got those scores. We can now come back to our capability map, and you can see we have a drop down at the top here where we're able to look at the heat map of our capability map against those various scores. So let's take a look at, say, process maturity. We have a little scale down the bottom here showing the range of values from underdeveloped, immature, advanced, and mature. And as we look across our capability map, we can identify areas here where there's some clear opportunities for improvement. As we cycle through, we can take a look at, say, information, pro people, and technology, and recognizing over here that there's a significant area. This is the space where this particular initiative of the payroll system is taking place. So we'll drill now into having a quick look at how flexible it is, as I said, to set up those assessment criteria. That's one of these other nodes on our capability pathway. Jumping over to the assessment criteria. You can see over here, these are the various assessment criteria that we've set up. And having picked this one, information maturity, little description of what that is, and then an opportunity to pick from a set of available assessment values. In this case, we've chosen the set of values called maturity level. Those assessment values are here in the subsequent tab. See a variety of different assessment values, and here we define exactly what those values are, the four that we saw earlier. We give them a heat map temperature, as it were, and the temperature being the scale that we pick from a heat map palette. You can also see down the bottom here which assessment criteria are actually using this value set, so that if we make any changes to it, we see which are going to be affected. And of course, we have a whole range of different color palettes so that you can have clearly distinguishable different colors across your different heat map options. Right, so having set that up, we've had a look now at our capability maps. What we'd like to start doing now is laying out, getting in a little bit more detail into the capability itself and how it aligns to all of the other elements of the strategic plan, the business architecture, and down into the business operating model. So I've selected a capability here, and as you can see, we can define and set up a variety of different relationships. We can see which technology features the capability links to. We can start defining epics that we would create to uplift that capability. We can delegate the capability to roles, and roles in our perspective have a fairly abstract notion. We can have a hierarchy of business units roles. So in other words, the organization as a hierarchy. We can have the person roles within those business units, or we can have the actual individuals themselves and their hierarchy. So by to select and match and connect, align a role or any other element to this capability, you just click on the button over here and you get the drop-down list of the available modeled items in that category. So we've assigned this capability to the pay and benefits officer, and we can see which applications are involved in the delivery of this capability, in this case, the payroll solution. A few, and again, extendable list of other attributes or relations that can be set up. So for this, we saw earlier a roadmap view of business initiatives aligned to business strategies. In this view, we're looking at capabilities, and we have a roadmap view of all of the children of this payroll and benefits administration here they are, and the associated epics that we've defined, and when those epics are going to be implemented in our Agile delivery. And you'll see later on, we'll show you how we define the sprints within our Agile delivery train, and we assign epics to those sprints. And then this view is actually giving you the ability to see for all of the selected area of capabilities, what are the planned uplifts to that capability through epics. So to us, an epic is more than just a set of user stories or something that we do in our projects. We also consider an epic to be an uplift of the maturity of the features of the capability. And here, this is that beginning of that linkage into the Agile stream. We can also get a more detailed view of those uplifts. So we're looking at them as a roadmap, and here they are in a table showing us for every epic associated with these various capabilities, the actual user story or business requirement that detailing what's going to be done within that epic, where that epic is kicked off, or where those user stories have actually been assigned to a project task. You can drill through to the project task itself, and you can see that project task in which sprint it is, when that sprint is scheduled to be released, and in what release that is, and giving you that timeline. And it's this set of timelines that is linking those epics into the capability roadmap. And all of these little blue buttons mean that you can drill through to that particular part of the tool to get more information about that component. Right, now having done that, we've got our capabilities, we've assessed them, we've found where we need to do some uplifts. We've then defined what epics that we would need to implement to uplift those capabilities, and we've scheduled those epics into upcoming set of sprints, and of course our sprints are related into scheduled into our release schedule. All of that we're going to just walk through in a second. But what we now can do is bring up our release schedule down the bottom of the screen here, where we have what we call our release slider. The releases have all been scheduled to particular dates. In this case, a very simple approach of quarterly releases. Wouldn't it be nice if everybody had this nice regular schedule of releases? And because we know what sprints are in each of those releases and what the scope of each sprint is planned out into the future, we can drag our slider across and we can get a view across this section of our capability map to see which capabilities are intended to be heat mapped along here. And so as we move along through the release slider, we get this nice perspective of how and when things are going to be uplifted. And of course, as you saw, if we wanted to drill into that particular capability, we'd get the detail and track down into exactly what's happening to that capability. So that is really the beginning of our as is to be transition map. Let's now take a deeper dive into the portfolio area and have a quick look at some of the capabilities that Jalapeno provides for tracking and managing your Agile delivery. Oops, excuse me, forgot one quick thing. While we're still up here, value streams. So being able to assemble your capabilities into a set of value streams. That's on our final tab in the capability models. In the capability pathway, we've got 3 different value streams defined here. The one that we're particularly focusing on is our payroll processing. So here we define the value stream itself, and then the various stages in that value stream. This one just has 3 stages. We can order those stages. So there's a stage for data collection, payroll processing, and then post-processing. Within each of those value stream stages, the key thing that the value stream is going to illustrate for us are the business capabilities within those value stream stages. But also, we can map down from our operating model the business processes that support that value stream stage. And just to give you a quick highlight of how that looks like, so here we've got a processing the payroll process, and we can select that process, drill down, and this is bringing up from the business analysis section the business process itself for that particular value stream stage. Capabilities are added just by clicking the add into that button and then adding them from the list of capabilities that we've just been looking at in our capability map. Having done that and set all of these capabilities up, we can go over to view our value stream, and here it gets laid out for you in your traditional value stream view. And because we've already defined for each of these capabilities what the role is, in this case, the business unit that is managing those, they're responsible for those capabilities, we can also show on that value stream these swim lanes aligning those capabilities in that value stream stage against the role that has the ultimate responsibility for those. And of course, all of that heat mapping that we did on the capability map follows through into the value stream stage. And so here we're looking at the process information and the technology assessments across this value stream, really giving you that more relevant view, perhaps, of where in fact your uplifts are needed as they're applied in a value stream. So the owner of these value streams have this clear perspective of what it is across their value stream that is needed to be uplifted. And of course, you can drill straight into the capability itself through this view as well. Right, so now I think we're going to show you then. So we're looking at that value stream, and then here again, the uplifts that we saw on the capability map, but now organized for that value stream. So the value stream owners have that detailed view of being able to jump through right from here to everything associated, to all of the planned uplifts across their value stream. Okay, so portfolio management. We've aligned our Agile delivery module to the scaled Agile framework, SAFe, which is one of the more popular and emerging frameworks for scaling Agile across a large portfolio of delivery. SAFe talks about the portfolio, the project, and the ongoing Agile release train, which you see here. And we provide this ability to manage and organize your portfolio of projects across the portfolio phases as they move through. And these are the typical portfolio Kanban stages as defined by SAFe. Once a project gets kicked off, it itself has its own life cycle of stages, and within a particular project, you'll have then the series of sprints that project is delivering. Those sprints have their own Kanban of stages, and all of the work that's done in any of these sprints and any of these Kanban stages rolls all the way up so that we can get this overall high-level portfolio view. The whole intelligence behind the Jalapeno tool and the Capsicum framework is really driven by meta modeling. And whilst this may sometimes seem a bit of a deeper dive and a dry subject, I thought it'd be interesting to just give you a little extract of our meta model to illustrate how we've aligned these various modeling domains of business architecture, requirements management in the business analysis space, and the project delivery that allows us to be able to do that traceability that you saw earlier. So up here you can see where we have our capabilities and the alignment of a capability to the application stack and the features within a particular business application that address that capability, and our organizational roles. As we said, we consider epics to be units of work that are going to uplift that capability. From a requirements perspective, an epic is a collection of requirements or user stories, and the user story links back to the user story is the I want to. So that in our tool, we don't just have text here, we actually link the back to a defined role in our organizational hierarchy. The I want is a need, so that is a benefit. And the epics then map into the project delivery by assigning them into a sprint. So here we have our portfolio, our projects, our sprints. Sprints scope is made up of a set of epic. And then as we go into the sprint planning, we'll look at the user stories for that epic and assign those user stories to people in the project, in this team, as a task, as an actual project task. The requirement also has an acceptance criteria, which helps us to understand when that task has been achieved and for our testing teams. And then as these sprints are scheduled to be released, you have your release schedule and the sprint is put into the scope of release, and we can define the dates and time and the output. So that links us back to what we saw earlier of how we can get that relationship via the epic through the sprint to the release from the capability. Okay, so here we are, and again on the pathway section. We've gone into the project pathway now, and we'll start off by looking at our portfolio view. As we said earlier, there's a Kanban for portfolios to look at our projects as we move them through the portfolio stages. There are behind each of these notes is a wealth of information about the project itself. Heat maps showing you some sort of indication of the relative health of the project, as well as indications of any comments that there might be on the project itself. And here we can see other metrics being displayed, for example, the risk and who the project manager of that particular project is. You might want to look at that in a grid, or actually even output this to Excel. So it's one of the things about Jalapeno. It's extremely easy to get content in and out of the tool. So this view, which looks very much like a spreadsheet, acts very much like a spreadsheet. You can drill into any of these nodes and edit anything in here in this view. You can remove a row, you can add a new row, or you can, through these icons over here, you can download this to Excel, or even upload from Excel if you wanted to, if you had an Excel sheet where you're keeping the sort of information you wanted to bring it into Jalapeno, or push it out even to an external tool. And many of our customers choose to use Jalapeno for those parts that make sense to them, and then perhaps use some other product to do their agile delivery. And so it might be at this point that we would output either here or down to the levels of epics and sprints, and even down to user stories, and then let that management be done elsewhere. You can, of course, do that in Jalapeno, and we'll show you our ability for doing all of that delivery work itself. We also have roadmaps view of the portfolio. So for this particular portfolio, we're looking again at the capabilities that are being that are in our portfolio, that are being uplifted across the portfolio. And here we've got the capability to epic list once again. We can also see our sprints as they're planned for the various projects, and the epics within the sprints. This is a really neat view for the project manager to be able to organize the scope of a particular sprint and see which epics are in that sprint. And then once again, the overall view of how our projects line back to the strategies which we saw earlier, from accessible from the strategic planning itself. The same view here now from the opposite end at the delivery end. Okay, so let's move on to defining the project itself. So here you can see we've got 5 different projects in our demo model. We're looking at the outsourcing of payroll administration, and this is just an area where the portfolio office can start defining a little bit more detail about the project itself. Again, this page and all of the pages in Jalapeno, it's entirely configurable and extendable. So we've just got a little bit of summary information here, as the problem statement that this project is addressing. We've linked here through the business needs area to the objectives of the business objectives that this project is aligned to, really giving you that ability to map into the strategic planning here and know which projects are addressing which of your strategic plan, strategic objectives, and the particular stakeholders in this case that we're illustrating that are interested in this project. There's a great opportunity here for you to extend this and put in a lot more information about business case, budgets, planning, financial commitments, and so on. Okay, we've moved now into the actual project planning itself, and we're looking here at the epics that we have defined for this particular project. Take an epic, and this shows you where you can define where you've got that relationship back to show you which capabilities that epic is relating to, which sprint it's been assigned to, and you can actually go in here then and start defining and linking it to our requirement repository. Within the business analysis module, we have a full set of business requirements, and those as we said earlier, defined as user stories. So we'll be able to pick here from the available list of requirements, or similarly from the requirements tab, Here we can see a node showing us all of the business requirements that have already been defined for this particular project. And having picked one, we can do the reverse. We can see a view of that business requirements specified in this case as a user story, linking it to the role. There's the need and the benefit, and we could from here link them to the epics, and eventually they'll be turned into project tasks. That'll be done in the Kanban itself. Okay, so once we've set up our projects and assigned the various sprints that those projects will have, here you can see we're on the sprint management page now. We've picked the project, we'll pick the project phase or sprint. Let's pick sprint 1.1, and as we get into the planning of that sprint, we present the sprint card wall, which is one of our digital representation of what many of you would see on your walls around your office, I'm sure. The columns being the epics that we've defined for this sprint, and then the little post-it notes here are the user stories that we've set up for this particular that map to that epic. Drilling in here, you just get the little view of that user story itself. So at this stage, we're just doing that very simple arrangement of user stories into their epics. You can drag them around, obviously create a new epic and add new post-it notes. And each of those post-it notes you can define for that user story the priority using the Moscow must, should, want, and so on, and priority rating to be able, and that prioritization actually color codes the post-it notes for you. Once we define the scope of the epics, and we've defined which epics are in this particular sprint, we can begin assigning those user stories as tasks to our project team. So in this view, we've laid out our project team members as columns, and we're just dragging a post-it note or a user story across the columns, dropping it on a particular role, and that, as just that simple act of doing that, creates a new project task, aligns the project task to the user story, and assigns the task to that project role. So having assigned all the tasks, all of the user stories to tasks, we can now kick off our sprint, and we can see the defined Kanban stages that we're going to take those tasks through within the sprint, right? And those stages are completely definable in your admin stage. We've got a simple set here of ready to do, in progress, ready to deploy, testing, and complete. And each of these boxes then represents one of the tasks that we've just seen, new bunch of information about who's doing that task, the comments that have been generated about that task, the relative t-shirt size of the task, and so on. And the heat mapping, some indication of priority. And all of those metadata attributes are defined, and the color codes and so on the admin page. Drilling into a particular task, you can get that view of the task itself, the epic, and the user story that the task relates to, and then the metadata about the task itself, who it's assigned to, what its status is, what its t-shirt size is, as I said, priority, and if it has any predecessors or successors that's in relationships to it. Okay. Now, as the work begins, the user that the task is assigned to, the project team member, will drag the task across the columns and progressing it through those columns, and they can begin annotating the task with information, comments, and about the work that they're doing. They can copy in, paste in here diagrams, pictures, attachments, linking this task out to external sources if you might have some documentation in some external repository that you wanted to link it to, and actually just comment to one another as well in these comments. So as they write in a comment, they can ask a question or ask to another project team member, and just by putting the ampersand in front of the project team's member's name, that will fire off a notification to the project team member. He'll get a little notification up here in his inbox that he's got a message to work on, and opening up his inbox over here with the plus sign, he'll get a list of all of his inbox items and be able to click through to this exact task here and respond to the comment. We can also integrate those messages out to social communication software like Slack, which is one that we all use, as well as even out to email or other chat software. Okay, so what this does then is it allows you to develop the documentation and associate the documentation and inside of Jalapeno as of what's actually been happening by the delivery team in the Agile release, and have that related back not only to the task, but through the task to the user story, epic capabilities, and of course, queryable and searchable through Jalapeno. So we could subsequently produce reports showing all of this content as sort of a functional specification, almost as it were, or a report on exactly what got done by the project team at any point in time. It doesn't get archived at the end of the sprint. It's always available, and at any point in the future, you can look at a capability and you say, show me all the work and what was discussed about the work that got done on that capability. Okay, so the Kanban board, you can see, is highly configurable. We were looking a minute ago at the Kanban phases. We can choose this drop-down list, and instead of the columns showing Kanban phases, we can have them show by person who the task is delivered to. So when you're in those sprint planning sessions or stand-ups, this is a nice way of just reorganizing the tasks into a variety of different perspectives, so you can quickly go through and say, okay, what work is allocated to each individual. We have other options there. You can look at them by size. You can see the relative size of each of the tasks in my Kanban, or priority, or and even down into the epics themselves, in which tasks are aligned to whichever epic. So it's a much more than just a Kanban. It's a fully dynamic and configurable grid for analyzing and maintaining your tasks. And coming to the end now. We can drill across here to the detail grid, and once again get the full detail in a table here of everything that we've done. If we scroll to the right, once again we can output this information about the project to Excel. And oftentimes I've seen our project managers using this view to be able to simply drill down through the list of available project tasks and update them in the sprint in one simple, easy view for those people that like the tabular view. Okay, I've moved over now to the final node in the project pathway, which is release management. We can see our various releases over here. And one of the most one of the great byproducts of all of this is that because we've defined for the release the sprint, and the sprint links back to the project task, the requirement, and everything else, we can create a report here, which is effectively the inputs that we need to generate the release notes of everything that got done in that release. So auto-generating by simply querying the model and telling us everything that got done in that release, and being able to use the content from the descriptions that the team's been annotating across the tasks and the requirements for putting into that release. And that then completes the end-to-end traceability from where we began the journey earlier with our overall strategic planning, through our project delivery, and down into the releases. Peter, I'm going to take a breather now and hand back to you to see if we have any questions.
Deep breath, Terry. Thank you very, very much. So and I'll echo Terry's question. Are there any questions out there from the audience? And go ahead, if you'd like to type them into the Q&A session. If not, maybe just as starting, there was a couple of folks did go ahead and, to begin with, started before our session, sort of pre-sent some questions to us, and I'd like to share a couple of those. And Terry, maybe I think you will be able to address these pretty easily based on what we just saw. The first one was, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but once a project completes, how can we see those project artifacts, and can they be stored and shared and reused across another project?
Yes, exactly. So one of the great benefits of doing this in Jalapeno is that you have this dynamic incremental repository where content is stored, not as static documents in a knowledge base, but as a real actual living database of actionable content within the tool, and all of those meta relationships that you've established between those model items are queryable. And we can return the contents of a query into any of those views that you've seen, grids or other sorts of layouts. So absolutely, our goal is that that Jalapeno becomes just a little technical bit of information. Jalapeno sits on a MarkLogic NoSQL document store, so it's a very powerful database that where we can store all of this information. And yeah, the idea is that it's infinitely retrievable from at any point in time from any part of the model that relates back to that content.
That's excellent. I see Carla Lewis has just typed in a question. Can you create BPMN models in this tool?
So we didn't cover today our business analysis module. Within the business analysis module, one of the key areas is process modeling. Our process modeling paradigm is based on a state-based paradigm where we link the project tasks in a process to the objects in the data model that the task acts on, and then assemble those in a swim lane. It's very similar to BPMN. We don't actually use all of the BPMN. We don't use the flow-based paradigm of BPMN, but we can import BPMN processes into Jalapeno, and we can output our process models in XML, which you could import into a BPMN tool. But in our tool, we've taken a state-based approach rather than a flow-based approach to process modeling.
Fantastic, great. Maybe one or two others could, Terry, if we could. Question about epics, actually one or two questions about epics. Terry, for epics, how do we understand within Jalapeno if those epics are achieving our strategy goals? How is that shown?
So the meta model that we looked at earlier gives you that relationship from the perhaps the best way to answer that would be showing this capability, this meta model view once again. So the epics link back into capabilities. And in the business motivation model that you saw earlier, we have the 6 cells of business motivation model. Capabilities we store in the objective cell. And as you could see earlier, objectives link to tactics and tactics into strategies. So capabilities are mapped directly into the 6 cells of the business motivation model, which themselves have their meta relationships between them. So by tracing your strategic planning, any of the strategic elements, goals, strategies, objectives, or tactics to the capability they support, it's through the capability that we get down into the epic, and we can see which epics link back to supporting a particular business strategy.
Fabulous, fabulous. Another quick question from Carla here. She says, I see that there is a business architecture and information architecture. Does this tool have EA features? I assume, Carla, you mean sort of some technical architecture, applications, services, that type of stuff.
Yes. So whilst the principal focus of our tool is a top-down modeling approach from strategy through business architecture and into the technology layers, we do have, as you can see here, 4 layers to our modeling to overall framework. We haven't touched on any of the lower levels today. We principally focused up here on the strategic planning layer. The business view layer gives us a view of a business operating model and how the capabilities, for example, map down into people, process, and information on the business in the conceptual business view. And then that maps down into a technical, logical designs and platform design. So particularly for information modeling, for example, we have conceptual, logical, and physical information models. We have processes which map down into a service catalog and the actual services themselves, and as well as interactions that map down into the messages, the APIs, and the low-level technical elements, technical architecture elements that support the high-level business view. But just stressing once again, we are not your typical technology architecture tool that's pushing up into the business space. We are very much have come from the perspective of a business tool, modeling business information and mapping it down into technology.
That's good. I think that's an important distinction, Terry. There's another question here from Anthony DeSalvo. He mentions, you've done a great job of connecting capabilities, epics, stories, etc. How are you supporting the identification of so-called good or stable capabilities so that they inform the development work?
You're right. So it's not always that you're going to consider that a good or a stable or a mature capability doesn't need any work, and actually, so there's nothing to stop you, aligning work that's being done on your project delivery to the actual to mature capabilities. And I think in any organization there's a constant evolution and growth as we change and as we transform. And transformation doesn't need to only be uplifting the maturity. It can be extending and can be connecting mature capabilities into other systems or other stakeholder groups, for example, and just simply continue that continual enhancement. So not necessary that a capability needs to have any state of immaturity to be equally assigned to work into epics that associate with them.
Very good. Very good, and thank you for that question, Tony. I don't see any more out there. Maybe just one more I've got from my own here. Again, and thank you for those who pre-sent questions. Oh, Carla's got another one. Carla asks, is there a trial version of the software available for download?
There is. In fact, if you are looking at our website, any of you, we're going through a very significant digital transformation on ourselves. The website is a little bit of an embarrassment. So it's a couple of years old. This month of June, we are launching a fully digital platform that will allow you to, on the website, get a lot more relevant information about the tool, try a demo of the tool, and actually get a trial instance of the tool. But in the meantime, that we still can support that. Please feel free to contact us, and we'll be very happy to set up a trial instance for you. You get a 30-day free trial. Here is the contact information, or through Peter and the STA Group. So STA Group, just to explain our relationship, STA Group is our Chicago-based business partner in the US that supports Capsicum through and the distribution of the Jalapeno product, as well as implementations of Jalapeno at our US customers.
Yeah, thank you for Terry. That's absolutely true, and we'd love to help with this stuff. Carl asked another quick follow-up question about the relationship with IIBA.
Okay, great. So we have just recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the IIBA, and what that MOU is about. I've been wondering if I should dive into the actual live Jalapeno to show you all, and I can't resist for this one. So here we are, we're looking at Jalapeno. So the IIBA is the International Institute of Business Analysts. They have this thing called the BABOK, the Business Analyst Body of Knowledge.
Terry, I don't think we're seeing your screen right now.
Right, I have to share this part of my screen as well. Just 1 second. How do I do that? Share, new share. So while I'm finding that, I'll just explain. So what we've done with the IBA was we've brought the BABOK into Jalapeno, and we're gradually implementing in Jalapeno the full BABOK content, so that you can navigate your way around Jalapeno using the Babok as a navigation aid for those people who are familiar with the Babok and know how the Babok operates. And I'll just try and find. Okay, I think this is going to allow me to share. Is that come up, Peter?
Yes, it is. There it is. Thank you.
Okay, great. So here we have the, so what I've done, I'll just go quickly back to where we started our entry point. Down below here, you can see the IIBA. We have a node where we're starting to keep the Babok content. So here's an interactive menu of the perspectives of the IIBA perspectives, as they call them, the knowledge areas within the IIBA, and then the 50 different business analysis techniques. And so what you can do here is you can get a view of these various techniques. So for example, process modeling, a little description from the Babok about process modeling, and then drilling through from here directly to that part of Jalapeno where you do the process modeling. So that basically means that for anybody that's familiar with the IIBA and the IIBA techniques, you can navigate Jalapeno using the IIBA techniques, not only to drill through and try and use the Jalapeno tooling, but when you're on that particular page, there's a not yet released in our July release, you'll have access to the full IIBA help about that particular modeling paradigm. So yeah, that's our integration into the IIBA Babok. We do plan to do similar things, and we're starting negotiations with other bodies of knowledge such as the BizBoK, and of course, as you saw earlier, SAFE.
All right, very good. Yes, I noticed that we are getting close to the top of the hour. We still have a couple more questions, and we'll keep going. But for those folks that need to drop off, we wanted to thank you for participating. Remind you again that we'll be sending you an email that's got a link to a YouTube recording of this presentation that you'll have. So you'll have that. So if you do need to drop off, we understand. Well, thank you very much for joining. But I want to go back to, there's a couple other questions here from Beryl Burkham, asking about how do you manage the impacts of the change of value chain activities on the products and services?
The impact of change.
Impacts of change.
Yeah, so I guess the main thing is really to be able to see where that change is happening and what we expect, and being able to view which things are actually being changed. And I hope that sort of came through somewhere in the presentation. So drilling down into, say, capability map and being able to say, you know, for my particular capability area, and I'm going to go now live into where I was earlier, showing you that capability and its children, you know, here's the roadmap, here's what's changing, and here's the uplifts, the exact detail of what is changing into the future. So the impacts of change really is, I suppose, how does that epic or that requirement subsequently change and uplift the capability. The way that we do that is through a subsequent rounds of assessment. Now, what you saw earlier is that when we drill into, let me go back and pick a particular capability within there. So I'll take the payroll transaction processing, and we can see here's where we've done our assessments of this capability. The way that Jalapeno currently manages assessments is it's just a current state assessment, right? So if I was to come along here and say, oh, we've now run a project, we've uplifted the technology maturity of our payroll transaction processing, you would have to manually come along here and say, yep, it's now mature. And how? So, and I guess that's where the question's aiming at. So how do you actually get to pass that information through to update the capability map? The answer to that is through subsequent rounds of assessment. And at the moment, whilst this is a fairly rudimentary way of capturing that knowledge through this thing, through the actual single state assessment option, we have a huge focus in our July release on the improvements to our assessment and enhancements to doing capability assessments. And so what we recognize as assessments is a point in time perspective. So each of these, each assessment will be done through what we call an assessment round. Assessment rounds will have a date an audience, and then the assessment criteria that would send out to that audience, ask them to do an assessment, save that assessment at a point in time. Actually, one of the nuances on that is allow people to actually do a future state assessment. What do you think the future state will be after at some particular point in the future, after we've done some uplifts, and then subsequently, after those uplifts have done, reassess against that audience and get their updated assessment, and be able to then once again traverse through your heat mapping and get a perspective of how you've actually achieved it. So that's our approach to how we assess whether in fact the uplifts have been successful. Hopefully that answers the question.
Fantastic, Terry. Thank you. Hey, notice we're past the hour now. There's a few more just quick follow-up questions here. What I suggest maybe we'll do is we'll see for those folks that submitted those, we can reach out to you offline to address those. Also, for everybody, again, you'll be receiving a follow-up email that's got a link to the YouTube for this presentation. I would also invite, if you have any questions, still have questions, invite you to go ahead and respond to that email. Type your questions there, and we'll respond to them as quickly as possible and get back to you. And I think with that, Terry, I wanted to thank you very, very much again for your time and wish you a happy Thursday. And so the sun will come out tomorrow. Terry's living proof it's Thursday in Sydney right now.
It certainly will. Thank you, Peter. Very much appreciated. And thank you all for spending the time with us today. Look forward to hearing from you if anybody has any that would like any further information.
Exactly. We'll look forward to the next time too. Thank you all, and have a great day.